to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ejiro, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So I'm just going to get right into it today, and I'm just going to be talking about documents that you require for your PR. I'm going to give a disclaimer quickly. Most of the items I'll mention here, I also mentioned in my previous video, so I might not be going too in-depth, like I might not be explaining them to like the uttermost. So if you want to, I'm going to put it out there. If you want to get more in-depth, I would suggest that you watch my previous video and then come back to this one, and then it will make sense a bit, so that you're not like, oh, what's she saying? So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. I think one of the first documents you need is your proof of identity, because why not? This will include your birth certificate and also your international passport, of course. Birth certificate, if you don't have one, if you're from Nigeria, where I'm from, go to local government and get it. I had that issue. I did not have my birth certificate, so my parents could not find my birth certificate. And while I went to Nigeria, I think in 2021, I was, not 2021, I actually got one while I was trying to apply for my student visa. Sorry about that. I digress. But I'm just trying to say that it's quite easy to get a new one. So if you think that you can't get your birth certificate because you places, go to local government in Nigeria or your home country and try to get one. I don't know the process from other countries, but I know the process for Nigeria at least. The second one would be your proof of English. Now, like I mentioned in my previous video, Australia, unlike other countries, allows you to actually write the PT as one of the proof of English, allowed or eligible basically. And a lot of people have said that the PT is a bit easier than IELTS. I for one don't know that because I only wrote the IELTS. But then you can try it if you feel like, oh, you're not getting the scores that you need in IELTS. I think I suggest that you actually write the PT. PT can be written in any country. It can be written in Nigeria if you're in Nigeria. If you're already overseas, you can write it here. So if PT is the way for you, go for it, I guess. In my previous video, I mentioned the points that you need for both of them to at least have, I think it's superior English or something like that. But like I said, go back and watch that other video. More in-depth knowledge there. Moving on to the third one, which would be the work experience. You would require proof of your work experience. This would include, reference from your employer, pay slips from your previous place of work, and also, tax reports. This is to show that your company has been paying tax reports on your behalf. While you're in Nigeria, if you're listening to this video and you haven't migrated yet, I suggest that you start gathering all these documents, especially when it comes to like work experience or employer. You're trying to get the information from your employer. It can be a tad difficult if you come abroad and then you're trying to get those information. So while you're in Nigeria, if you have, say, you're trying to claim, say, 5 years experience, and you're currently not in the organization that you started out with, and you want to include that organization as your work experience, I suggest that you actually go and get, record of your pay slips and tax payments from them before you migrate out. These are things that you would require. So don't know. I know that some companies can be a bit lazy, and I don't want to say inefficient, but some companies might make it difficult to get it if you're already overseas. But if you're in Nigeria, I feel like it'll be way easier to actually get it. Now the fourth one will now be your skills assessment. Also in my previous video I mentioned it, but the skills assessment is obviously measuring your experience and assessing you. Basically, it's an assessing body. I'm not going to go too deep into it because explanations have already been given, and I'm probably going to link it up here so you can just go there and watch the video, and you'll be able to get more of this. In brief summary will just be an assessing body that assesses your work qualification basically. Another item that you will require is also a police clearance report. So if you're already in Australia, you will need to get one from you need to get it here. I think the one you need here is the NPC, which is the National Police Clearance. But if you're in Nigeria, you need to get a police report from Nigeria. And essentially, this police clearance report that they need from you is in whichever country that you have lived in for more than 12 months within the past 10 years. So if you're someone that has said you have schooled, maybe you schooled in Nigeria and then did one master's in the UK, or maybe went to go and stay with a family member in the US for more than 12 months, you will need a police, clearance or police report from that country that you lived in for more than 12 months. And then if you're already in Australia and you've probably lived in all those other countries, you need, say you went to America, you need one from Nigeria, one from America, and one from Australia. If you haven't even come abroad at all and you've only ever lived in Nigeria, you need only a police report from Nigeria. I hope I'm not confusing you. Another document you're also required to have is your educational certificates. So whatever documents such as degrees, diplomas, and transcripts, you would also need to provide this to show that the skills that you're saying that you possess, or the qualification that you say that you have, you actually have them. I think this is pretty much self-explanatory. Another document that is required is the health assessment. Health assessment, I wouldn't really necessarily say it's required before the application. I would say more of like once you have submitted your application, and usually you actually get a notice to actually go. I'm saying actually lots, but you get a notice to go and actually do the medicals. So this will include a medical examination, x-ray, check your chest and the rest. But usually you will get a notion to actually go and have your medicals done once you submitted your application. I keep looking down because I wrote it down so I don't forget anyone. Once you have gathered all this required document, the next step will be expression of interest. I already said I was going to explain so many things because I talked about expression of interest in my previous video. Like it says, expression of interest is basically a statement saying that you want to migrate to Australia, you want to migrate to a state in Australia. It also highlights your skills, your qualification, and your work experience. Last but not the least will be a sponsorship letter. So this is for people that are basically going through the employer sponsorship route. So a lot of people come into I was just about to say Nigeria, but a lot of people come into Australia through the employer sponsored route. So they are not here to study, they are not trying the skilled migration, they have gotten a job from wherever country they are coming from, and they are on the employer sponsored visa, and then they get a sponsorship from their company, helping them apply for the permanent residency. So if you are one of those people, you also need to submit a letter stating that your company or your employer is sponsoring you. So these are the 9 different items that you require for your PR. So I hope that this video was really helpful to you. I tried as much as possible to kind of list the items that I needed and not to be repetitive with my previous video. So I hope that this was helpful. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and click on the notification bell while you're down there. See you in my next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.